Have you ever felt a single word pierce your heart, stealing your peace before you could catch your breath? We've all been there, caught in the sting of a harsh comment, a judgmental glance, or a careless jab that sends us spiraling. It's as if the world demands we fight back, prove ourselves, or lose ourselves in the noise. But what if the secret to true freedom lies not in reacting but in choosing what to let pass? In this journey, we'll explore the Buddhist art of reclaiming your peace through silence, discernment, and the courage to stay unhooked. From the trap of reaction to the freedom of letting go, these stories and teachings will show you how to protect your inner calm like a flame in the wind. Join me, because today, you'll discover that peace isn't something you find, it's something you build, breath by breath. Let us begin. 1. The trap of reaction. Why do we let a single harsh word steal our peace, as if our heart were a house with no locks? Too often, we're caught in a cycle of reaction. Someone says something sharp, and before we know it, our chest tightens, our breath quickens, and we're ready to fire back. It feels instinctive, almost righteous, to defend ourselves, to set the record straight. But what if this urge to react is not our strength but our snare? In the Buddhist tradition, I've come to see that impulsive reactions to criticism or insults are less about truth and more about ego, a trap that pulls us into suffering. Let me share a story, one that has lingered with me, about a man named Mr. Howard, whose quiet wisdom showed me that true power lies not in what we say but in what we choose to let pass. This trap of reaction is subtle but fierce. It begins the moment someone's words, careless, cutting, or condescending, land on us. There is a tightening in the jaw, a flash of heat in the chest, a quickening of the pulse. Our body, before our mind can catch up, gears up for battle. It's as if we've been wired this way, taught from childhood that silence equals weakness, that we must stand up, speak back, and prove we're not to be trifled with. Society cheers this on, telling us that reaction is strength, that being right is worth any cost. But pause for a moment and look closer. What does this reaction really do? It doesn't free us. It binds us. It's the hook in the fish's mouth, and the bait is our ego. There's an old Buddhist saying that stayed with me. He who angers you conquers you. Not because they stronger or smarter, but because they now hold the reins to your inner calm. You've handed them the keys to your emotional home, often without them even asking. I remember meeting Mr. Howard at a retreat in Oregon, a soft-spoken retired librarian whose presence was like a gentle breeze. At 73, his voice was quiet, but his strength was undeniable. During a group discussion, a younger man, sharp-tongued and eager to challenge, mocked Howard's views on detachment. The room grew tense, waiting for a clash. But Howard, he didn't flinch. He smiled, nodded, and sipped his tea. Later, when someone asked why he stayed silent, he said words that hit me like a bell. I don't attend every argument I am invited to. That moment was a revelation. Here was a man who understood that not every poke deserves a punch. That spiritual maturity means knowing when to let the noise pass by. His silence wasn't weakness. It was wisdom, a choice to protect his peace over feeding his pride. Buddhism teaches that suffering blooms when we cling to identity, to being right, to the need to be seen. Reaction, especially the immediate, emotional kind, reveals this clinging most clearly. In that split second when someone challenges us, we're not defending truth. We're defending an image, a fragile self we've built. But that image, like the anger of the one who insulted us, is impermanent. It's just a storm passing over a mountain. The mountain doesn't scream at the clouds. It simply stands. We can be that mountain too, if we stop letting every gust of wind define us. Reaction feels seductive. It gives a rush, a fleeting sense of victory. But beneath it lies a costly trade. Our peace, our energy, our clarity. Each time we react, we give away a piece of ourselves to something that often doesn't deserve it. So, the next time someone's words try to pull you into their storm, take a breath. Ask yourself, is this my battle, or is my ego just itching for a fight? That pause, that sacred space between their words and your response, is where your power lies. It's not about running away or hiding. It is about recognizing that your energy is too precious for every petty conflict. By choosing not to react, Yuri not surrendering, Yuri reclaiming your freedom. Yuri saying, "This moment doesn't own me." And in that choice, you find a peace that no argument could ever offer. Let us practice this together, because peace isn't just founded as protected, breath by breath, silence by silence. 2. The gift you don't have to accept. What if the next insult thrown your way could slip past you like a breeze, leaving your peace untouched? Too often, we catch the harsh words, the judgmental glares, and let them sink into our hearts, as if we're obligated to carry their weight. But there is a liberating truth rooted in Buddhist wisdom. Insults and anger are like unwanted gifts, you don't have to accept them. There is a parable I hold close, one that has shifted how I see these moments, and a story of a woman named Eleanor, whose quiet courage showed me that refusing to internalize someone's criticism can restore not just your peace but your relationships too. Picture this. Someone hands you a package wrapped in resentment, a cutting remark, a bitter tone, a passive-aggressive jab. Your instinct might be to take it, to open it, to let it unravel your calm. But a well-known Buddhist parable offers a different path. A student once asked the Buddha, "What should I do when someone insults me?" The Buddha replied, "If someone offers you a gift and you don't accept it, to whom does the gift belong?" The student, puzzled, answered, "To the one who offered it." The Buddha nodded. So it is with anger, hatred, or insults. If you don't take them in, they remain with the one who sent them. This isn't just a clever story, it is a practical lifeline. Every day, people toss us emotional packages. A snide comment in line, a dismissive look at dinner, a text that stings. Each time we face a choice. Do I receive this, or do I let it pass through me like wind through a reed? I think of Eleanor, a 78-year-old grandmother from Kansas, whose story touched me deeply. After her husband passed, one of her children constantly criticized her home, her diet, even how she grieved. At first, Eleanor reacted. She argued, cried, lost sleep, letting each critique pierce her. But one day, she recalled the parable and decided to try something new. What if I stopped picking up what they keep throwing? Instead of snapping back, she smiled gently. Instead of defending herself, she asked questions. When the attacks cut too deep, she'd say, "I love you, but I want to receive this energy today." The change wasn't instant, but it was profound. Over time, the arguments faded, her relationship softened, and most importantly, she reclaimed her peace. This is the heart of the teaching. Silence isn't surrender. It is selection. Refusing to accept someone's poison doesn't mean you're weak. It is a quiet declaration that their storm isn't yours to weather. In Buddhist psychology, another's irritation or bitterness belongs to their karma, not yours. You're not required to stand in their rain just because they re-soaked. The practice is internal, recognizing that your peace isn't for others to bargain with. So, the next time someone offers you an insult or a heavy emotion wrapped in blame, pause, breathe, let it fall to the ground untouched. That choice to not accept what doesn't serve your spirit is where your freedom begins. 3. The art of the non-response. What if the secret to inner peace lies not in winning arguments but in choosing which ones to skip altogether? In a world that glorifies quick comebacks and sharp retorts, the idea of staying silent can feel like defeat. But through the lens of Buddhist wisdom, I've learned that non-reaction is not passivity, it's the deliberate, powerful choice. A quiet rebellion against the ego's urge to fight. There is a story that has stayed with me, about Raymond, a Vietnam veteran whose journey from a firecracker mouth to calm restraint showed me that true strength is found in pausing, not in opening the door to every provocation. This art of the non-response is a subtle strength, often overlooked in a society that rewards clapbacks and instant replies. Buddhism sees this reflex to respond as bondage, a chain tying us to the ego's hunger for validation. But there is a deeper wisdom in silence, not the silence of fear or avoidance, but the silence of someone who knows themselves so well they don't flinch when provoked. I think of Raymond, a man I met at a Buddhist community center in Northern California. When he first arrived, he described himself as a firecracker, one spark, and he'd explode. A rude stranger, a dismissive nurse, even a condescending glance from his son could set him off. But during a retreat, a monk shared a simple truth that changed him. Just because someone knocks on your door doesn't mean you have to answer. Those words hit Raymond like a wake-up call. He realized he'd spent years opening the door to conflict just because someone else decided to knock. So, Raymond began practicing what he called the pause. When someone tried to bait him, he'd take a long, deep breath and ask himself, "Is this worth opening the door for?" 9 times out of 10, the answer was no. Over time, people noticed. He wasn't cold or passive, just calm, like a lake undisturbed by the wind. His son even said, "You don't take the bait anymore, Dad. It's like you've stopped playing a game everyone else is stuck in. That is the essence of the non-response. When we don't react, we break the cycle. People often provoke us because they feel powerless, craving control over our emotions. By responding with anger or defensiveness, we feed that dynamic. But when we choose silence, we return the responsibility to them, reminding ourselves that our peace is ours to keep. The Buddha taught that harboring thoughts of being wronged keeps hatred alive, but letting them go brings peace. Mastering the non-response doesn't mean you'll never feel hurt. It means you see those feelings as visitors, not masters. The next time words come at you like arrows, imagine them flying past, with you choosing not to be the target. That space between stimulus and reaction is where your freedom lives. By practicing the pause like Raymond did, you reclaim your power not over others but over yourself. So try it, just one breath, one moment of stillness. It is not about giving up. It is about choosing peace over chaos. For when to stay silent and when to speak. Ever wonder if your silence is healing or hurting the moment? In a world that swings between shouting matches and stifled feelings, knowing when to speak and when to stay quiet feels like an art form. Through Buddhist wisdom, I've come to see that silence isn't just the absence of words, is a choice, guided by discernment. The teaching of right speech offers a compass, urging us to speak only when our words are true, necessary, and kind. But silence can be tricky, and a story about a woman named and taught me the difference between repressive silence that festers and wise silence that heals, showing how mindful communication can mend broken bonds. In Buddhism, right speech is a cornerstone of the Noble Eightfold Path, a guide to living with intention. Before speaking, we're asked to pass our words through 3 gates. Are they true? Are they necessary? Are they kind? Only if they clear all 3 should they leave our lips. But silence, too, demands discernment. Staying quiet during a petty argument might save a relationship, but staying silent in the face of harm can enable more pain. The real question isn't just should I speak, but what is driving my silence or my words? I think of Anne, a woman who loved her son fiercely but clashed endlessly with her daughter-in-law for years and held her tongue, not out of wisdom but resentment. She thought she was keeping the peace, but inside, she was boiling, storing each hurt like bitter seeds. Took a toll: headaches, sleepless nights, even heart palpitations. During a mindfulness course, and realized her silence wasn't peace. It was pain, suppressed and festering. That realization changed her, and decided to speak, not to accuse but to connect. She wrote a letter to her daughter-in-law, saying, "I want us to have a more peaceful relationship, and I recognize I've been holding on to things instead of sharing them gently." Guided by truth, necessity, and kindness, that letter opened a door locked for over a decade. Their relationship didn't transform overnight, but it softened, and found peace in her honesty. This is the balance we seek, knowing when silence comes from fear and when it is rooted in clarity. Buddhist monk Thich Nhat Hanh once said, "Speak only when your words are more beautiful than silence." It is not poetry, it is a call to weigh our choices. Silence can be a gift, offering space for reflection, but it can also be complicity if it buries truth or abandons values. So how do we choose? Listen to the voice within, not the one shouting for control, but the one whispering for connection. Ask yourself, am I silent because I am wise or because I am afraid? Am I speaking to build or to burn? Every word is a tool, every silence a choice. For those who've seen decades of life, this discernment is a quiet power. You've learned some arguments aren't worth the breath, but some truths, spoken softly, are medicine for a wounded world. Practice this, and you'll find peace isn't just kept it as built, moment by mindful moment. 5. Deactivating conflict before it begins. Can you imagine stopping a fight before it even sparks? Like catching a flame before it spreads? Conflict often sneaks in quietly: a sarcastic remark, a raised eyebrow, a passive-aggressive sigh, and in that moment, we hold the power to ignite or extinguish it. Through Buddhist wisdom, I've learned that anger isn't something that just happens. It is something we feed. There is a man named Frank whose quiet strength showed me how to diffuse tension proactively, using non-defensive listening, neutral language, and a heart set on connection over conquest. His story reminds us that conflict needs our participation, and choosing calm can keep peace within reach. Conflict doesn't always arrive with a bang. Sometimes it tiptoes in, disguised as a subtle jab or a tense silence. Buddhism teaches that anger is a fire that needs friction and fuel to burn, and most conflicts grow because we bring kindling instead of water. I met Frank, a 72-year-old grandfather, who called his greatest achievement not his career but the fact that his grandchildren never saw him lose his temper, not even when they broke his antique clock or spilled juice on his tax forms. He told me, calming things down before they start is easier than fixing what has been burned. His approach was simple but profound, and it is something we can all practice. First, Frank mastered non-defensive listening. When someone came at him with frustration, he didn't brace for a counterattack. He listened with his whole being, face open, breath steady, no agenda. He found that most people don't want to win. They want to be heard. When they feel understood, their urge to fight often fades. Second, he used neutral language. Instead of saying, "You're wrong," he'd say, "That is an interesting perspective." Instead of, "You never listen," he'd say, "I feel like we're missing each other." These weren't tricks, they were compassion in words, arrows that don't wound. Third, Frank never aimed to win. He asked himself, would I rather be right or at peace? With age, peace became his priority. You might wonder, what if the other person wants a fight? Here's the quiet truth. A fire needs oxygen. If you stop feeding it, it flickers out, not instantly, but surely. Frank's calm wasn't weakness. It was spiritual bravery, the kind that doesn't need a spotlight. Buddhist teacher Pema Chodron says, "Nothing ever goes away until it teaches us what we need to know." Conflict often mirrors our unhealed wounds, the buttons we haven't unplugged. By not taking things personally, by pausing to see the pain behind someone else's words, we can choose curiosity or humor over critique. The next time a conversation feels like it is teetering toward a storm, try Frank's way. Take a breath. Listen without defending. Speak softly, neutrally, or not at all. Ask, am I fanning the flame or snuffing it with stillness? Peace isn't just something we stumble upon, it is something we protect. By deactivating conflict before it begins, you're not avoiding life's messiness. You're shaping it with wisdom, one calm choice at a time. 6. The freedom of not getting hooked. What if you could glide through life's provocations like a fish dodging a hook, untouched and free? Every day, we swim in a sea of emotional baits, snarky comments, heated opinions, dismissive tones that tempt us to bite, to react, to lose our peace. But Buddhist wisdom teaches that true freedom comes from non-attachment, from recognizing these triggers and choosing not to get hooked. There is a story about Clara, an 81-year-old librarian, whose transformation from ruminating over slights to letting them pass showed me that this practice isn't just about avoiding pain, it is about reclaiming a deeper, unshakable calm. Imagine a fish in a vast lake, swimming peacefully. A shiny hook drops down, glinting, twitching, begging to be bitten. But the fish, wise and steady, swims by. That fish lives longer, freer. Now picture yourself as that fish, with life casting hooks your way. A critical remark from a sibling, a stranger's rudeness, a loved one's careless tone. Each is bait, designed to pull you into turmoil. In Buddhist psychology, this is non-attachment to mental formations, meaning you're not your thoughts, your reactions, or the emotions that flare up. You can see the bait and choose to let it drift past. This isn't about shutting down or going numb. It is about observing without being owned. Clara's story hit me hard. A soft-spoken widow from Oregon. She used to be, in her words, emotionally allergic. One wrong word could send her spiraling for days. Replaying the moment, crafting comebacks, stewing over the unfairness. Her peace was always on loan to the last person who upset her. But during a silent retreat, a monk drew a diagram that changed everything. A person surrounded by hooks labeled criticism, gossip, provocation, that he said, "Hooks will always be there. Freedom is not in removing them, it is in not attaching your mouth." For Clara, it was a turning point. She started noticing when her buttons were pushed, and instead of reacting, she'd smile and whisper to herself, "Ah, there's the hook." It became her mantra, a fence around her inner garden, keeping the weeds out. Over time, Clara's life shifted. She wasn't just avoiding arguments, she was protecting her spirit. She described it as a lightness, a freedom from needing the world to behave for her to feel okay. This is what Buddhist teachings point to: liberation through wise engagement, not withdrawal. You don't harden your heart, you soften your reactions. You don't stop caring, you care more selectively. You feel everything but choose what to respond to. The world can throw what it wants: insults, drama, bait, but if you stay steady, unhooked, you remain in control, not of others, but of yourself. That is the path to true peace, as the Buddha taught, not through fighting every battle but through knowing which ones don't matter. Clara's transformation showed me that freedom isn't about fixing the world's noise, it is about not letting it unravel you. Each hook you pass, each reaction you release, is a step toward a peace that is yours, not the world's to dictate. It's not easy, especially when the bait feels personal, but it is a practice. The next time a comment stings or a situation tempts you to dive in, pause. Ask, do I need to bite, or can I let this swim by? Picture Clara, smiling at her hooks, and try it yourself. That choice to see the bait and keep swimming is where your power lives. It is not about escaping life's currents, but learning to glide through them, free and whole. So, take a breath and practice letting one hook pass today. Your peace is worth it, and it is closer than you think. As we come to the end of this reflection, take a moment to breathe, to feel the stillness you've been weaving within. We've walked through the traps of reaction, the gifts we don't have to accept, and the quiet power of choosing when to speak or stay silent. From Mr. Howard's calm nod to Clara's smile at life's hooks, we've seen that peace isn't in the absence of noise, it is the strength to remain whole within it. This isn't just a lesson. It is a practice, one you carry into your conversations, your relationships, your heart. So, I ask you, what is one hook you can let pass today? What is one moment where you can choose peace over chaos? Your freedom is closer than you think, built not by changing the world but by mastering your response to it. If this touched you, share your story in the comments. Your words might light the way for someone else. And if you want more reflections like this, rooted in Buddhist wisdom and crafted for the heart, subscribe to Quiet Wisdom. Let us keep walking this path together, not in haste, but in awareness, in dignity, and above all, in peace.